All right. Yep. It's that time for us to have a productive soul conversation. Good people, good people. And as we've been talking about over the past few weeks, we are going to get in between the sheets of the 24-hour blueprint and show you how to start planning your holiday the way that you would maybe plan a wedding. Okay. So first and foremost, I want to welcome those of you who are coming back and checking this out again. Thank you. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for talking about the subjects that we're talking about with other people and really spreading the word, right? About living the productive, soulful experience. And for those of you who are new, welcome, right? Stick around, subscribe, all that good stuff. And make sure that you don't miss future ones, right? Set your notifications up, all that great stuff. So let's address this. Why am I talking about planning the holidays now, right? We are months away from the holidays. And you might be thinking, okay, this guy has lost his mind. What is he talking about? Well, let's break it down like this. If you are in business, if you're on the entrepreneurial side of life, you can never plan too far ahead, right? Because there's always some other shoe that's going to drop and throw a wrench into your plans. There's just always an X factor of things that can happen that can take you off course. But if you've given yourself enough room to plan and anticipate and account for those events, you then can pivot, right? So right now, for some entrepreneurs that are in their A game, they already know going into the fall and going into the holiday season, going into Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and any other holidays that anyone celebrates in that window of time, they've already started to, at the very least, think about it and or have plans for it. It's just a matter of tightening it up. So if you're on a non-entrepreneurial side, right, you just I would say entreprofessional, right? You are a professional, but you want to continue to, of course, grow, expand in your career. This is also important too, because at the end of the day, the holidays affects us all. It affects us, those of you who are on the entrepreneurial side. It affects you, those of you who are on the professional side. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like that time of year affects us all in some way, shape, or form, right? Or very, very much so the people around us in our environment. So why plan for it? Why go through the exercise of even having this conversation right now about it? All right. So a few videos back, I really took my time to break some things down, right? I took some pauses. I took some deep breaths. I didn't rush the conversation. And I'm going to do the same thing now, right? So if you're expecting a quick rah-rah, sis, boom, bah session, this is not going to be that session. I'm going to take some breaths to just really make sure that what's coming out of my mouth matches what I'm thinking and what I have noted that needs to be addressed on this subject matter. Okay? All right. You ready for that? Okay, if you are, stick around. If you're not, you just gotta watch this. If you're watching it on YouTube at like 1.5 speed, so that it can pick up, right? And the message can get to you with the speed that you like to listen. Okay. All right. Take a deep breath. Okay, here we go. So after a certain age, let's just say 30, late 20s, 30. Everything starts to have almost like a flavor of repeat. You know what I mean? By flavor of repeat, like, wow, it's another birthday. Oh, wow, it's another reunion. Oh, wow, depending on what your marital status is and how long you've been married, right? Okay, it's another anniversary. Or, wow, so-and-so's birthday is coming up again. Oh, wow, that annual dinner function that we go to is happening again, right? There's some things that become painfully repetitive and uncomfortably repetitive, and sometimes in a cringy kind of way repetitive, like, oh, we got to go to this dinner again. Oh, how much is it per plate? Okay, then we got to donate to this, right? There's some things that at some point you just feel numbed by or discouraged by, only because there's nothing new about it, or the meaning of it is no longer there. Now you're just going through the motions. Am I making sense? Everybody have some version of this happening, or having has it happened to you before? Let me ask it that way. Okay. So, like I said, I kind of started the age bracket at about 30. 30, same thing happens, going into your mid 30s, 35-ish, going into your late 30s, of course, naturally into your 40s and beyond, right? You start thinking and you start seeing life in these repetitive patterns. The things that are new end up being things like, if you have children, them learning to walk and eat and call you dad, mama, right? Like kids actually almost are refreshing in the sense that they remind you of, those parts of you that have been bored to death. Now, everything that comes with the kids, daycare, healthcare, school, what they need, all these things that you've just never really had to process before. You now are preoccupied by, right? And it kind of keeps you on your toes. Okay. But outside of that, life has a certain repetitive aspect to it. And not only that, over the course of a year, it's kind of the same way. Easter comes and goes, the summers come and go, the back to school seasons come and go. Like at some point, some things start to kind of get back to some kind of normalcy and get repetitive again. And then there's, of course, the holidays. All right, here we go again. It's, whose house are we doing dinner at? Okay, oh, they're not going to be in town. Oh, is it destination this year? Or who's cooking this? Oh, so-and-so never likes, coming over to so-and-so's house. And, they're really picky eaters and we can't make that dish again. Or no, let's just do it at my place today, this year, because, I feel like I'm the most centrally located, and like all this stuff, right? The logistics. And then, naturally, of course, beyond Thanksgiving, there's the holidays beyond, where you start thinking about the same thing, right? Some version of the same thing, right? Whose house, what meals, where is it going to be held, who gets along with who doesn't get along with who. And if you remember, some of my content last season was all about how to really manage the stresses of that. Okay. So here we are almost a full year later, and I'm starting a little bit earlier with the messaging on this, in that if you want to not have stress going into the holiday season, if you don't want the drama and or the trauma triggers, because I forgot to mention that there's certain things every time of year, certain windows of the year where, you have trauma triggers, right? Things that remind you of, maybe someone who has, who's no longer with us, and now you've got to celebrate yet another year without them. Or if, something's recent, a relationship ended and you're going through that cycle again, right? And maybe this is your first holiday without that person, or those individuals, maybe friends in general, or maybe you relocated and now you're in a new city and you can't celebrate the way that you used to celebrate. That there's all kinds of things that can happen during the holiday season, right? And so when you look ahead, the thing you want to start to process and maybe prepare for is how you're going to manage and how you're going to handle it now. So going in between the sheets here, right? There's a section, and I highlighted it last time, where, as I know some of this stuff is just so mundane and so, right? But it's not if you're actually doing it, if you're actually living this, right? So there are calendar planning sheets at the end of every 24-hour blueprint planner, okay? And the other thing I have to take into consideration, I'm just thinking where I placed it, that you should think about is, for the holidays that are coming, I want you to start to think of how you want to create and how you want to design them and how you want to experience them this year and each and every year. So, for example, you can create your own themes as far as what you want to celebrate this year. And you can even plan ahead and think, what do I want to celebrate in the year after that? And what do I want to celebrate in the year after that? Just like in the lunar calendar, the Chinese lunar calendar, there's like the year of the ox, the year of the rat, year of the monkey, etc., etc. You can have your own version of what years you want to celebrate, right? You can say, hey, I want to celebrate the year of wisdom, or the year of peace, or the year of love, or the year of ambition, or the year of inspiration. Like whatever it is, you can actually craft it out and call the shots as far as how you want to experience your holiday season now. So at the very least, you can actually start to create the kind of space or the kind of context you want to experience your holidays in. Am I making sense? You can, of course, naturally, like any given year, gratitude never gets old. You can always celebrate the holidays in the context of just gratitude. But whatever it is, you get to say, you get to call the shots on it. Make sense? Okay. So remember, the whole framework here, the whole intention of why I'm having this conversation early is for you to be in the driver's seat of managing your experience, of what you're going to experience during the holidays. And in order for you to do that, you need to actually know what you're going to do in order for that to be the case. So if this is the year where you're just going to dip out and disappear and fly to the Bahamas, right? Hey, this is a good time to start making those plans, start looking at those tickets, and start letting people know, hey, this holiday season, not going to be around. Okay? That I'm giving you the adult keys to peace right now, right? And peace management. Okay? So, but if this is an exercise that you haven't participated in or engaged in before, I'm going to share with you another document here. Okay? Let me just pull this over for you. Okay. So inside of the playbook, there's a page in here, like, again, if this is kind of new to you, called the brain dump. Okay? The brain dump exercise sheet. All right? This sheet kind of has the silhouette. I don't know if you can tell from looking at this, right? You can see the kind of brain silhouette right in here. Okay? So that sheet is a sheet where when you start thinking about the holidays, just, I'd say, set an alarm for like 10 minutes. Even if you're one of those 10 minutes is too long, you can set it for 5. Set your alarm for 5, but I think 10 minutes is better. And just write down everything that comes up for you, the anxieties, the worries, the concerns, even the stuff you look forward to, everything that comes up around the holidays, you can just put it down on that sheet, right? Just write it down. That's what the whole sheet is for, okay? If you have the playbook, right? There's the playbook and there's the planner, right? The playbook kind of gets you in motion and get the juices flowing, and the planner is all about implementation and execution, okay? So for those of you who are new to thinking this way, you want to use your brain dump sheet to just start putting it out there. Everything that's in your head about what this holiday season can be about, we want it to be about, et cetera, or you don't want it to be about, just write it all out, right? Don't put a filter on it, just put it all down on the brain dump sheet, okay? So after you do that 5-minute exercise, right? I told you guys I'm going to take my time with this. The next page is a page that has some bullets. Okay? You might be able to see it. See these bullets here? These boxes? Okay. So that page is the page where you start to write down the actions that naturally come up. You can take, another 5. In this case, you can take 5 minutes because you don't necessarily need more than that. To write down the actions that you need to take based on the things that you wrote on that brain dump sheet that are like hot, right? The things that you wrote down, you're like, oh man, that's a big one, right? When you wrote it down there, you want to then go to your brain dump sheet in the bullet page. You want to write, okay, this holiday season, I'm going to travel to the Bahamas, right? And rent a villa for a week and invite anyone who wants to join me to come and experience the weekend or experience the week or the holiday season with me, right? Or I'm going to rent an Airbnb up in upstate whatever your upstate is. Here it's upstate New York, right? And you're gonna write it down. But naturally, as you write that down, there's other things to do. It's like, okay, look up, start to block out Airbnb window, right? Airbnb pricing if you're gonna stay at an Airbnb, or look up hotel ticket, hotel costs, right? Per night costs. Look up ticket pricing. Find out, if you know people who live there who maybe you can crash and they've got an extra house or an extra room or whatever it is you would want to have arranged. Like, this is the time for you to start thinking it through. Okay? And if you think it through now, if you take the time now over the next week or so to think this through, there's a part of your brain that's going to be relieved, because it doesn't have to be preoccupied with what's going to happen. What's going to happen? Is it going to be drama like last year? Now, for those of you who it's always a merry time, you don't have to worry about this, okay? You can actually add to this by saying, oh, wow, it was amazing last year. Here's what I want to do to even make it bigger, make it better, make it greater, make it more of an experience, right? You can do that. And this exercise includes, getting gifts, identifying what day you're going to be calling people. If you're like the holiday, phone call person who sends holiday calls, or if you're going to be the person who's going to be texting and messaging people, pick the day that you want to do that. Like, you got room to really create how you want the holiday to flow. You don't have to be trauma triggered or at the effect of the dramas or any of that during this holiday season, right? Especially if you're hearing this message. Like, if the holidays don't turn out the way you want it to turn out, you gotta look at why, because you got some keys to the kingdom of making it peaceful right now, okay? With some tools. So that's that exercise, right? Getting in between the sheets here. We talked about the brain dump sheet. We talked about the brain dump exercise sheets where you can bullet out what actions you're going to take to manifest this, okay? And I think I started this off perhaps by talking about how planning for the holidays is kind of like planning for a wedding, right? You might remember that. And if I didn't say that, I meant to say that. So one of the things that starts to happen, I'll close out with this story, is sometimes I work with clients who are planning a wedding, and they're planning a wedding sort of, well, at least for the groom, okay? The groom is now looking at suiting, and maybe sometimes he's with his significant other or partner, and they are looking for a suit, okay? And there's a combination of questions that I like to know. How formal is it going to be? Is it going to be all tuxedos, or is it going to be, just, great suits that you can, rewear for other occasions? What's it looking like? Is it going to be local? Is it going to be destination? Right? And then one other question that I ask is, when is it going to be? And for some people, it's like months away. Okay. And if it's about 2 months out, sometimes I have to give the person or the couple space to just really figure out what they're looking for. Because at 2 months out, there's a certain level of urgency that's lacking. That's just not there, right? It's more like a little bit of window shopping. Oh, we're also going to stop at such and such a place. We're also going to stop at such and such a place. We're going to check out different styles. We're going to check out pricing, right? Like, people still feel like they got time, okay? And what I sometimes caution people to do or to think about is to really think about the fact that you don't have that much time. So, for example, if you're both working, you're not shopping for this suit every day, right? There's wedding invitations to send out and coordinate, and lists to review to confirm who's invited, who's not invited, et cetera, right? There is the catering hall to confirm. And of course, naturally, you want to work with your wedding planner if you've got one of those. But if you're kind of DIYing it, you got to think, okay, so got the wedding list. we got the catering hall, and then there's taking the time to go see those catering halls and make sure that that's all queued up. If the significant other or partner hasn't, fully settled or chosen their outfit, it's the time to kind of look at that and weigh those options. What else? So you got the catering hall. If it's going to be at the same church, if there's going to be like a church, or then moving to the catering hall, there's figuring out the church and what your ceremonial situation is, and there's going and getting the wedding certificate and doing the justice of the peace thing and figuring out what date that's going to be. What else comes up? Food and beverage, all that stuff. Going over the budget, all the costs, who's gonna cover what, and then if you add the layer of it being a destination, now you got to figure that whole piece out. Okay, and so now you just realize, as I'm walking you through this, you say the wedding is 2 months away, and it's really not 2 months. If you're fortunate, you've got maybe 4 or 5 weekends. Maybe. You can try to make it 8 weekends because it's 2 months, but there's the weekend that the actual event is going to happen, so that's not happening. Matter of fact, the whole week leading up to that wedding, cross that off. So you really have, if you're lucky, 5. And then if the gentleman selects his garment, depending on what alterations need to be done, give yourself about 7 to 14 days for that process, depending on what kind of alterations need to be done. Okay, but if you're going to do some shopping around, then that selection process, including the 2-week alterations, right, adjustments that need to be made, or if it's getting made, if the suit is actually getting made, that's a whole nother conversation. So before you know it, this 2-week window that you think you have to just figure it all out before going to the altar, you don't have it. You're fortunate if you barely can breathe and have your marbles work for at least 3 weeks to make this magical moment realize. Oh, then there's the photographer. I forgot about that. Oh, what are we going to get and wear for the rehearsal dinner? Right? If your parents are local or not local, coordinating their travel and their stay. And if you've got friends who are coming in and coordinating their travel and their stay, there's a lot to it. And so if you kind of use this metaphor that I just walked you through and map that on similarly to the holiday season, that can be just as weddings can be this blissful experience, it can also be very, very stressful. So like the holidays, it can be this magical, blissful experience, or it can just be very, very stressful because of all the moving parts and all the things that are involved, depending on how important they are to you, right? If you are really like a big holiday gung-ho kind of person. So planning ahead and thinking ahead about what you want an experience to be can always serve you well if you take it seriously. And of course, naturally, I'm talking about it in the context of using some good tools, some good resources to start thinking it through, right? You got a playbook, you got a planner, right? To think about this think about and execute on this with. And naturally, over time, you'll get better at this, right? If you pull it off this holiday season, next holiday season, you get to say how you want it to go based on how great this one went, right? And even if this one kind of, you pulled it off a little bit, you might have gotten a clue of as to how to do it. This is what whole, lifestyle architecting is about, right? You start to create and curate your own experiences the way you want things to go and the way you want things to flow. That's important. That matters if you want to experience a level of peace and freedom and grace and ease in your experience as your own productive, soulful self. Okay? All right. Any questions? And this is why it's so important to start planning the holidays now. Okay? Because before you know it, if you don't, you got September back to school for those of who are parents. You got October pumpkin month, and pumpkin and pumpkin spice latte month, and picking out what parties you're going to go to and what costumes are going to be rocked. And then again, if you have family and got the kids, you got maybe 3 or 4 Halloween parties, and then if you depending on how you want to party as parents, maybe you've got one costume party that you're invited to that you're trying to coordinate, and then you got Thanksgiving, and then it's all madness from there. Okay. And the same thing applies for those of you who are on the entrepreneurial side, right? You got to figure out what products, what your offers are going to be, what your email sequences are going to be, what your marketing budget and ad situation is going to be. I mean, I'm not telling you anything new, but the same thing applies. Okay. So we are working on really creating and architecting a peaceful experience for this last, entering this last quarter of the year and making it a great one. Okay. So any questions anyone's got to make this happen? Let me just wave to some people who came through. Okay. All right. So I hope this has been a helpful conversation to have. Not just that I hope, I know it's a helpful conversation to have because I don't come across content where people are really having this conversation. And of course, naturally, I had to break out the holiday red, right? So for people, people want, man, that's a bright red. Yeah, it's all in the spirit of kind of having you hone in and realize like, oh, wow, yeah, you know what? Before I know it, the holidays will be here. And, if I'm behind the eight ball, I'll find myself stressed out and blessed out the way that I always find myself, right? And if you don't want that stressed out, blessed out experience, take inventory of everything that I just mentioned and start applying it. Start using a blueprint to support and celebrate the experience you want to have. Okay. All right. No questions. Fantastic. Okay, so if you're catching this on YouTube, of course, likes and subscribe, leave a comment, and if this has made a difference for you. Of course, if you're seeing this on other platforms, there is a notification section, and also leave a comment. I always like to just know how this is affecting and impacting you, right? So that I can tighten things up and maybe even go deeper into some aspects of what's covered so that you can win and really get some gems. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for listening. I look forward to seeing you guys soon in the upcoming Productive Soul conversation. I think I was going to pull up what the subject of the next one is. No, I'm going to keep it a secret. So you have to stick around and come back, and I'll catch up with you guys soon. Thanks a lot for watching and or listening if you're checking this out on the podcast, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Stay soulful.